Hello.
Oh shit, you got the vlog going?
How are you, man?
Looking good? Hey, Bob's a good.
Arkadaşlar şunu belirtmek istiyorum. Şimdi videoda inanılmaz dümen şeyler olabilir, altyazılar olabilir. Çünkü çoğu yeri anlayamadım vesaire. Hani oraları artık şey yaparsınız, yanlış şeyler yazdıysam bayağı bir yer boş kaldı. Hani ama bu videoyu da atmak için hani şey yaptım hani açıkçası. Çünkü çok güzel bir video oldu. Hemen izlemeye devam. Okay. Hello, Sir Sean.
How's it going?
Hello, fine. Hello, Sir Dean. Today we are with Wiz and Dion. I have questions for you guys. First, how's your life going?
Life's pretty good, man. Can't really complain. Just working. That's it.
Yeah.
Just had my birthday, see my people, so it's been pretty good.
First question. What do you think about Houston?
Houston's great, man. I moved to Houston around a year ago.
Yeah.
There's so much culture here. Everything here is so just like flavorful and colorful, and it's just like a very different vibe from any other place I've ever lived at, for sure. And I love the weather. Aside from when it rains a lot during the summertime, I love the heat. The humidity is something you have to get used to, for sure.
Do you like heat?
I do for sure. But the thing is that Houston, relative to a lot of the other cities here in Texas, it's very humid here since we're by the water. So oftentimes the air, when you're in your training, it feels like very thick, or almost you feel like you're breathing in water because of how humid it is. But yeah, no, Houston's great overall.
Yeah.
I have a little different thought on Houston. I mean, I like Houston. I like the culture here. It's very diverse. It's probably one of the most diverse places that I've lived.
Yeah.
But there's just certain things, like back home in Kentucky, we get all 4 seasons. So I like to have like the fall, the winter, the spring, and the summer. Versus in Houston, like it's kind of like the summer and then a little bit of the fall, a little bit of winter, but nothing really like happens other than rain. And
I know
rain,
we came here 1 year ago, but when did you come here?
I came here 2 years ago, actually. Yeah, like 2 years ago, and I lived in LA previously. I love LA. The weather in LA is great. It never rains. It's always sunny. The air is not thick. It's not humid or anything. But outside of that, the only thing I don't really like about Houston is the driving.
Yeah.
The driving is really bad. Nobody can drive. And it's getting packed up more than ever. Like, people are just moving here.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, there's a lot here in Houston, and it's a nice city to live in. I'll say that. It's very nice to live here.
Thank you. When you start the powerlifting, how much can you squat, bench, and deadlift?
Well, so you're talking about like when I did my first competition?
Yeah, no. First lift, for
Okay.
example, 100 kilos.
Okay, yeah. So in high school, I built up to like around again 185 kilo squat, probably like around 140 kilos on bench, and then maybe like 250 to like 270 kilos on deadlift pretty quickly. But that was like training at commercial gyms on pound plates, and like I wasn't even lifting in kilograms back then, because most of the times here, people outside of powerlifting here, everyone in the States lifts on pound plates for the most part. You know, like it's not like the rest of the world where everyone's used to kilos. So like those are just rough kind of conversions of what I used to lift, and that was back in high school before I even really knew what powerlifting was. I just wanted to be strong in the gym. It was just fun training squat, bench, and deadlift, and me and my friends would all go after school to the nearest commercial gym or whatever that may be. We hopped around a couple different gyms during our time in high school for sure, but we were just trained to have fun without really trying to be competitive or having any meets in sight or nothing like that. We just wanted to be strong and we wanted to be big, you know.
Well, so going off that, like, yeah, in the other parts of the country, like, it's just pound plates. Like, I didn't even know what kilograms was until like I got into powerlifting. So When I first started like lifting in the gym, like actually training to be strong, because like growing up we always lifted. For like sports, like football and all these other sports, like we lifted, but it wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't like, oh, we're pushing to win a meet or anything like that. Like we're just lifting to get strong to produce on the field. So like when I was, what, like 18, 19, when I really like started trying in the gym, bro, I used to struggle with 225 on bench, 225 pounds, squat like 315 pounds, and then like deadlift 405 pounds. So, going
Very good lifts, man.
it's all right, but like seeing how far it came, it's very like humbling. Starting from that, and then like I used to be against kilos. Like I used to talk so much shit about it. Like I was like, man, I don't like colored plates. They're not like that, blah blah. And then I got humbled very, very quickly, and I started lifting on kilos. So now I'm of the belief that it's on pounds. It doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, that was my numbers when I kind of first like tried SBD. I would say that, yeah.
Thank you. Next question is, in Turkey or different people, things always in IPF and USAPL, they use drugs. Everyone say they are liar, or this man is not the natural. What do you think about those people?
I think it's kind of the same belief where a lot of times people will look at professional athletes, whether that be in football or other professional sports, and think there is no way they could be natural. There's no way that they can be this strong or look this type of way. But a lot of it, I feel like, comes from ignorance, in the sense where just because like those people who might be saying that, they don't have like a grand scope of like what really is possible with genetics and the types of people that are out there. I can't speak towards the IPF since I haven't competed in it, so I'm not going to speak towards all these other countries and their drug testing protocols, because I just simply don't know. But what I do know is within the USAPL and the out-of-meet testing protocols and the drug tests that we have here, I haven't heard of anyone at the top being popped for taking something, or everyone I know in this general ecosystem, like I put without a shadow of a doubt that they're all natural and that we don't like take any sorts of drugs.
They say those lifts are impossible as a natural.
That's what I'm saying, because they just don't know. You know, they don't know what it's like to have the best type of programming, to have the best type of recovery, to be locked in, and just the general scope of knowledge that's out now isn't readily available to everyone. So they just simply don't have that scope of imagination as to what's even possible. You know what I mean? Like, we could say down the line that programming becomes that much more advanced and people start lifting at that much of a younger age, and so much more genetically gifted people come into the sport, and we'll see the types of weight that they're lifting, and we could say from our perspective that there's no way that they're natural, but from their point of reference, like, it's just what's normal to them. You know, like, this is all normal to us. Everything that we kind of go about on a day-to-day basis, people look at it and they say, there's no way that's possible, how could that happen? But to us, it's very, very real and very, very normal, just like to how many of these other professional athletes, that's just what's normal to them.
I agree. I think I live of the belief you can never understand what you never actually experienced. So to me, like, even growing up and playing against Division I athletes who went on to be pro, they're just different. Like, there's nothing that they do that's special. They're just born that way. There's nothing like, bro, playing football against these kids who are the same age as me, but they look like grown men, was normal growing up. So like, I seen it firsthand playing football and playing against some kids in baseball who were like getting drafted into the major leagues and stuff. And then even coming into lifting, like, bro, there are people where I'm from, just walk the street, they don't lift and they're bigger than everyone. It doesn't make sense. It's just normal. So to me, like, even like actually knowing everyone is so funny to me, because I'm like, I feel like it's something that humans do when they can't do it themselves. So it's like a way to kind of tear people down, to be like, oh, there's no way you could accomplish this without this. There's always something underlining. And even like being around like the best lifters in the world and actually having personal relationships with them, I don't think people realize all the accusations and everything, like powerlifting, as far as raw powerlifting, is very new. It is not. It hasn't been around for decades. Like, I think it started, what, 2013, 2014, 2015,
Around
where
that
it started
time.
picking up smoke, and like, you're just seeing like a natural progression of more people going into the sport. You know, that's all this is. Like, all these freaks and all these people that you're seeing, you have a bigger talent pool to pick from. Powerlifting used to be very niche, and it still is, but it's growing, and more people are coming into it. And people who are better at other sports, they're not playing those sports no more, so they're coming into powerlifting. Like, there's kids here that have been powerlifting for like less than a year, and they're already strong as hell. It doesn't make any sense. They're just naturally gifted. You know what I'm saying? They're just built for it. So like, I look at people like that, like the 4-minute mile was impossible until somebody did it, and now high schoolers do it. It's normal. So
And,
it's like,
don't need to lie, man. Actually, Jamal is not natural, but he's sane. And we see is that he pulled 500 kilos.
Yeah.
I'll say this, like, the majority of the people who aren't natural, they're not the people that you talk about. You know what I mean? Like, the people that are trying to cheat in the USAPL and IPF, who are actually trying to cheat, they're not up there. You know, like, the people who are up there, they actually earn the right. And like, I put my life on a lot of things that a lot of the people, like you said, in this ecosystem, bro, I know these people. I'm with these people every day.
Every day.
There is no point, especially in the growth of powerlifting, there was no money in it. Why do drugs and why do something? You're not even getting paid to do it. And plus, like,
It costs money to do it.
drugs are a serious thing that like really can fuck up your life. Like, it can mess up your life. Like, it's not something to play about, and it's not something that people just like.
They say if you are athlete, you need to ready for everything. You need to ready for dying because of stories. It's fucking freak thing.
Yeah, like, listen, bro, there's certain things that just don't make sense. And it's okay, like, the thing is, like, we're all humans, but most of us are different than other humans. It's like, you got your Ashtons of the world, you got your Russell Worthies of the world. I mean, I could keep going on and on. Even, like, the foreign countries, there are strong people in French or Ukrainians. Like, they're strong men. Are they not natural? They're just strong. Like, you just got to dim it down to the sport is growing. There's more knowledge than ever. People know more than ever. Training is getting better and better. Nutrition is getting better and better. Technology is getting better and better. So just as a natural product of evolution, the athletes are going to get better. So I say to those people that really think that everybody's unnatural, if you really think that, put money down on it. You can come down, test these people, put them through anything you want, and just put your money down on it. It's very easy to say it from a screen than like come to people and say it. But trust me, like, being around Russ for all these years, it's funny. Like, I think it's hilarious.
This is a reality of powerlifting. Genetic is the most important thing, actually.
Genetics,
Yeah.
I'd say for sure.
Because, for example, I will never be a champion of worlds because I don't have enough genetic, and I know this. But when you start the powerlifting, I'm working for 2 years, and when you start powerlifting, you were lifting my weights. I did in 2 years. Genetic is very important.
Everyone's just different, you know, and it's not everyone's goal to be world champion, you know. Like, people enter powerlifting for so many different reasons, and all those reasons are very, very valid. Some people do it for a social thing just because their friends do it. Some people just want to do it because they want to do a couple local meets and, you know, have fun with that. And then other people who maybe have the means to take it to that next level, they want to do it for that. You know, it's not like a one size fits all thing.
And powerlifting, in a sense, it's just about getting stronger. You know, if you want to take it to the next level and try to be a champion and all those things, like, there's a lot of sacrifices and discipline and consistency that comes with that, just like in any other sport. But, like, I'll say it like this, right? I'm not going to blame NBA basketball players because they grew taller than me and I don't get to play. Like, it just is what it is. Or football players who are faster and quicker and stronger than me, who are better at a position than me. Baseball is a little different too. It's like, you don't have to have the greatest genetics to perform in baseball. You just got to be really good at your sport, right? So I feel like in anything, 100% genetics definitely matter. But powerlifting is an interesting sport. But even if you don't have the greatest genetics, if you work hard enough and you all right enough to where you can get to that point and you can stay healthy and stay around the level, you might surprise yourself on how far you can go. So, yes, genetics definitely play a role, and people who don't believe that, I feel like they're lying to themselves.
For example, my coach is Cenk Koçak. Do you know him?
I don't. No.
In Turkey, everyone says he can't be natural. He can't pull 400 as a natural. But I know he's a natural because he's an IPF powerlifter, and WADA is always testing. But they don't believe, man. They always say if he's natural, my mother is virgin. They say like that.
Hey, I mean, like, some people, they're just gonna say what they want to say, and their minds are already gonna be made up no matter what. You know, which is why I don't even put too much effort or energy towards trying to change people's minds nowadays when their minds are already made up.
It's one of those things. It's like, let's say that you were with us every day, every second of every day, and you've seen everything that we did for 2 months, and you know it, and you've seen it. People are still not gonna believe it.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. That's just the way the world is. Like, people are gonna make up their minds and believe whatever makes them sleep at night. It's just the way it is. So they're always gonna say that, like, that Russ is a natural and this person is a natural, and they're always gonna believe it because they can't do that themselves.
Yeah, they can't do it.
And that's if you can't do it yourself, that's okay. But you don't need to tear other people down to make yourself feel better. And that's all that life is. It's just perception. They just believe you can only do this way because that's the only way they can do it. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the truth. So it's like you limit people based off your own limits, and that's a negative thing to do. But that's just what the world does. And just like I said, just being around a lot of high-level athletes who have gone on to play professional sports here in America, I'm just like, it's just kind of normal. Like, there's freaks in the world. It's just normal. That's why they're the best of the best. There's a 1% in everything. 1% in everything. 1%. Right? And some people just can't grasp that. And some people work so hard, right? They work insanely to get to this point.
Or you, your life is lifting, man. But they don't understand this. They always say, I said they are not natural. For example, a couple of my friends said, how many, I asked, what should I ask to Reese? And they say, how many grams testo is it? They ask like, shit.
Yeah, I mean, with people like that, it's just, you know, I don't even take it to heart because they're going to convince themselves in their mind, just like Dion said, no matter what, that they're going to do all the mental gymnastics that they need in order to convince themselves of something. And like, I'm obviously, like, I know what my reality is, and like, I'm secure in myself enough to like not really take into account what other people think like that. Who don't know who I am, don't know what I do. You know, it's just like it's just what they make me out to be in their mind. You know.
And plus, like me and him are really close, like really close. That's very interesting. It's very funny. It's just like to me, if you don't actually know what you're talking about, then why say it? It's just ignorance. Like, you're just standing on a hill of ignorance. You actually have no physical proof or anything of anything that you think. You're just assuming. And when you assume, you make an ass out of yourself, you know? So it's like, I'm just one of those people that if I don't know, I'm not going to even say it. I'm not going to speak on it. Like I was telling you earlier when I was talking with you, I don't know what it's like to live in Europe or Turkey or the wars. Like, I don't know what that's like. I'm not going to speak like I do as ignorant. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, like, I'll always ask you, like, what is it like?
Yeah, what is it like?
Tell me what it's like. I can kind of understand, but I can't even understand it because I didn't go through it. You know what I mean? So, it's funny, but trust me, no way.
Sir,
Paul.
Yeah, this is recording, right?
Yeah, it's recording.
Thank you.
Imagine it wasn't this whole time. That'd be
Dude,
great.
that'd be hilarious.
This has been very. I like these questions.
Yeah, these are good questions.
Thank you. Next question for Sean. Is your tall affect your performance?
Does my tallness affect my powerlifting?
Yeah.
Most definitely. In the sense where, you know, the shorter you are, if you look at the world champions or the national champions in each weight class, most of them are pretty short, you know? because powerlifting is a measure of how much weight can you move a certain distance. So if you're a shorter person and you have to move the bar through a lesser range of motion, it's going to be easier for you to perform said lift, obviously, you know what I mean? So yeah, me being tall and me being 6 feet tall, like it's harder for me definitely versus someone who's 5'7", 5'8" to lift a certain amount of weight, you know? But like, I don't use that as an excuse for myself to like either like talk up myself or bring down someone else who's born into a completely different body, because that's the cards that were dealt. And I chose to put myself in the situation, and I choose to revolve my life around powerlifting in some instance, to the point where like I'm just like I'm playing my hand the best I can, you know what I mean? But like that just, it motivates me more to work that much harder, to put that much more muscle on, to look that much better, so that you can say, so that people can look at me and say, wow, this kid's 6 foot, 240, 250 pounds, and he's still out here lifting all this weight. He's still winning championships. He's still doing his thing. He's still paving that way for himself, despite maybe him being taller than a lot of the other people, or having to do more work than some other people than they would, you know what I mean?
You're lucky, bro.
The thing is, like, even with me, right, I'm 5'8", right? But even me, like, I have long limbs. Like, I have really long femurs, right? So my hip is, like, up here. I'm short, but I'm not blessed with, like, short limbs like most of my competitors. Like, I'm not like Atwood. I'm not like Perkins. Like, they're short, and their limbs are short. And I have short arms, right? It helps with bench, right? But
not deadlift.
Yeah, deadlift is very hard for me. It's actually one of the hardest things for me, because one, I didn't deadlift growing up. I did power cleans and things of that nature, but I never actually just deadlifted. And then on top of that, like, I just have really short arms and these long legs. So like, you can ask him, like, bro, deadlift is not something that just comes natural to me like everyone else. Like, it's very hard for me to do, even though I'm not I'm short, but I'm not sure. You know what I mean? Where I'm getting as much out of it as other people. But that's just something that I have to deal with as well. Like, I'm not Perkins. I'm not Atwood. I'm not these kids. Like, and when I stand next to them, I'm like, wow, y'all are like small. Like, y'all are very short. You know what I mean? Compared to me, like, I look at them, y'all are pretty short. But I just dumb it down to powerlifting is a game of leverage. That's all it is. It's leverage. You know what I'm saying? If you have the greatest leverage and you're strong, you're going to build yourself up to be one of the top lifters in the world. That's just the way the sport is. It's just like basketball. If you're tall, you're athletic, you can shoot, you can rebound, you can defend, you're going to go far in basketball. Football, same way. If you're strong, fast, good at your position, you're going to go a long way. So it's no different than any other sport. Probably the same thing. It's a lever. So, but yeah, I am impressed by like longer limb lifters, because I know it's harder for them. I understand it. It's not, even squatting is not like it's not the funnest thing, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
But you gotta keep moving forward, right?
Yeah, you have to.
SSG Bob, for example, he has a long femurs, and I think he will be best lifter in the world. I love him.
Very possible. Very, very possible.
Yeah.
He has the ability to, for sure.
Next question is Ash or Bob?
In terms of who do I prefer? Who do I think is stronger?
Yeah.
Well, they've gone head to head before, right?
I don't know if they've ever went head to head like weighing the same. I don't know if they've done that.
Because I know Bob won the pro.
Because I think Ashton still has one performance on him at one weight class, I believe. I'm not certain. So, and I'm always gonna. It's a little biased because since I've gotten to the sport, Ashton's been here.
Yeah,
you know?
Ashton's been that guy for the longest time.
But I'll say this: what they're doing and pushing each other, I think it is going to require a lot of greatness to come out of both of them, and I'm excited to what they're going to do. But like the ceiling for both of them is like still untapped. It's still untapped, and they're both great guys. I like both of them.
Yeah, they're both very good people. When it comes down to like head to head, it really just comes down to execution, really, and like who hits the most attempts and who's able to put it all together on the same day. You know, I think there's a big discrepancy here. Like I think a lot of people look at gym lifts and then they kind of paint up an image or idea in their head of where someone or what someone's going to hit on the day, like when everything's perfect. But Oftentimes, you have people that like aren't able to put together their best numbers or execute 100% perfectly on every lift all on the same day. So when it comes down to those two, it's really just going to be able to hit the most lifts and hit the closest to their ceiling and make it like undeniable to the standard of the judging that they need to.
And if they do come over to the IPF, I'm very interested to see them on the world stage.
Yeah.
Very interested.
It will be amazing, man.
It'd be fun to see.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
The thing is, like, I think, like, the top lifters of the world just being on the IPF stage, there's just something about it. Something about it. So I'd like to see them guys, like, go up on the world stage and compete for sure. 100%.
Thank you. In Turkey, every coach talk about this question. One coach say mobility is necessary. One coach say mobility is unnecessary. What do you think about this?
Mobility?
Yeah.
I would say that to an extent, everyone needs to be mobile, but because you have to be able to lift safely without being able to tear your ligaments, tear your muscles. Obviously, you need to have enough mobility to take yourself through a range of motion multiple times and not have your body break down on you or be able to get the work done. But I do think that there is an aspect to mobility where it's beneficial to be somewhat rigid or somewhat tight in the sense where, like, for example, if you were about to go in and max out, you wouldn't go in and stretch out every muscle in your whole body and like have your whole body be like loosey-goosey, like that's not beneficial to you, because I feel like there is an aspect to mobility where you want your body to be rigid and tight, and it's like kind of like a loose rubber band versus a tighter rubber band, and that tighter rubber band is going to have kind of that more force behind it rather than a stretched out rubber band that's kind of all over the place, you know what I mean?
So, like, a stronger muscle is a fully short, right? I'll say this. As I've gotten older, and my body's gotten older, mobility is important to a degree, because I got injured because I wasn't mobile. Yeah, like, I got really stiff in my pec and my shoulder and everything. Like, I was complaining about it to him. I was like, bro, when I bench, like, I can't get my shoulder down. And like, I couldn't even move my hand behind my back. And one day, like, we were benching together and I just started pop. And I was like, oh. And even now, like, it's been 4 months and I'm just now like getting back to being normal again. And like my whole body just seized up, like everything. I've never went through anything like it. And that's why, like, you see me taking my time doing my mobility now. Even him, like...
Yeah, I stretch out every lower body session now. And
there is a certain level of rigidness that you want, but you still need to be able to safely operate through the movements and be healthy. Like, because as you get stronger and as you build more muscle onto your frame, you just get stiff, and you just bundle up. And like, I feel it now as I get older. I'm just getting stiff. And now I take more time to like actually get my body into a position where I feel like I'm safe to perform the lift now. I'm not as young as I used to be, you know what I mean? So I can't just come in here like he did and just like throw weight on the bar and start going. Like I don't understand how he can do that.
Yeah.
But like just priming my body to be as healthy as it was when I came into the session, leaving the session as well. So if I can leave a session healthy, it was a good day.
Like, I used to not stretch at all. I would just come into the gym and then get under the bar and just start every time. Like, but I used to do that, and eventually I got hurt. And that's when my physical therapist told me like how tight my posterior chain or how tight some of my muscles actually were. And that's when we started to introduce a lot of stretching and warm-up exercises to kind of undo all of that tension that I had built up over the years. And then once I started to become more flexible, that's when I started to become pain-free again, and that's why I'm able to train now. But until I started stretching, it was like all my muscles were really locked up, and like I couldn't squat or deadlift for an entire month.
Yeah, and like how you talk about how like European cities are more walkable and y'all walk and do that, like we're sedentary. Like we're sitting in cars, we're sitting on couches, we're sitting in chairs, like we're always sitting, and then we come in here and then try to move all this weight. Like our bodies are just stiff from just sitting all day. We're not really up moving. That's why like we kind of incorporate like walking all the time now. That's why you see us do that, just to like force the issue, because we're not really forced to walk. We're just sitting all the time. So sitting all the time, being stiff, and then coming in here and then trying to move a lot of weight. Yeah, it usually like there's a pro and con to everything, but definitely have some mobility too, for sure. Definitely makes lifting easier. It's better for you. Trust me.
That's
Like,
Yeah.
be mobile.
Thank you. Guys, I learned you had an injury and I know you had an injury. What do you advise for the lifters if they had an injury, and how do you protect your mentality?
It's tough because when I was injured and I couldn't lift, that was like mentally one of the hardest times that I've ever went through, because you have this idea of your former self and what you used to be able to do and what you used to be able to achieve. And then once you get hurt, it's almost as if that's like taken from you, or like a part of you is like taken from you. So I feel like it's important to kind of recognize the situation that you're in now, and you say, I'm not any less of a person or any less of who I used to be because I'm in this situation now. And as long as, just like how you used to attack your training back when you were healthy, as long as you're taking the steps to kind of attack that injury and come back from that injury slowly but surely, one step at a time, in order to get back to where you were, that's like the kind of mentality that you need to have to kind of approach it. So people who are injured out there, you have to take it just slowly but surely. Don't force it, don't rush it, but take the steps necessary inch by inch in order to put yourself in a better position than you previously were in.
Yeah, I'll touch on that because I've been hurt for a while. Like, this is the one that's plagued me the most, you know. And when it first started, man, like, I couldn't do anything with this. Like, my girlfriend had to help me with everything, and like, just being a man and not being able to do stuff on your own is very, like, you know, it can mess with your ego a bit. And like, I couldn't even hold a bar. Like, I couldn't even hold a bar. I couldn't deadlift. I couldn't bench. I could only squat. It was the only thing I could do. And just to have something like this so abruptly taken from you, not on your own, like, it was just taken from you. Mentally, it's very hard to do. Like, you can't do anything how you used to. And you're like, when is this going to end? You know, and I think the way I approached it, kind of what he said, is just, I need to do everything that I can to get myself back to speed, because lifting isn't the only thing that I've been through in my life. So I just look at it like this moment will pass. Everything has to pass in time. Like, everything has to pass. But it also, like, humbles you in a bit, and not taking being healthy for granted, or just being able to do everyday functions for granted. Like, I couldn't use his hand. I couldn't design with his hand. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't hold a bar. I couldn't dap anybody up. Nobody could touch me. Like, couldn't do anything. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I'll never take being healthy for granted again. You know what I mean? Just being able to get up and not be hurt at all. And I felt like for so long I just took that for granted. Like, I could just come in here and I get through it and whatnot. And then two, I'll say this, I use that as a learning experience because I learned more about my body and how to keep myself healthy during that time. So in a way, I'm thankful that it happened. But mentally, it can be hard. It can be very hard, but I learned a lot from it. I wouldn't change it any other way. But now I know the steps to take to prevent something from this ever happening again, or if even somebody around like has a similar issue, I can be like, hey, like, I had a similar thing, like, let me tell you what to do before you end up making the same mistake I did, because I was just too, like, egotistic, like, I didn't want to listen, right? And then my body was like, you know what, I can't give you no more. And like, it just went out. So take care of your body, man. You don't get another one. And I'll say, if you're going through a tough time with the injury, mentally, just know that it passes, and just be patient. It'll pass. Like, it's very hard to deal with mentally at first, but just be patient. It's like any struggle you go through in life. It doesn't last forever. Just be patient. You'll get through it, and just keep your head on straight. That's all you can do. That's the best way to do it. Just kind of like his motto, just keep moving forward. That's all you can do. Just wake up, one step at a time, one day at a time, and just keep pushing. That's all you can do. Trust me. Trust me.
Do you guys still have a pain?
Not right now, no. I'm just still kind of building up the strength that I previously had, and I'm making good progress with that. But no, I don't have any pain anymore.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
I don't have any like pain, but I still feel slight degrees of it where I'm still trying to manage it and not go too fast, right? Because like it's hard for me mentally. Like I told you earlier, like I bench, I don't know, 400 plus pounds. I don't know how many times that's my top single, right? Like right before I got injured, my best top single was 430. And now, like, my best top single since then has been like 375. And I can do reps with 375, but I'm like, I have to listen to my body and take it slow instead of like, oh, I'm feeling decent today. Let me just put like 408 or 412 or 418 on the bar, and then potentially like re-injure myself again, or potentially like send myself back. Because I did do that. I felt really good one day, and I went up to 391, and I was messed up for the rest of the week, and my body just got stiff again. And so I would say like I don't feel pain as much as I used to, but I'm very smart about it because I don't want to make it even worse. Because I got lucky with it not being a full tear, with it just being like something that happened. But yeah, man, just take your time, listen to your body, and don't put your ego aside. I'll say that.
And in this situation, we understand coach is important, right? Your coach is Joe Flex, right?
Yeah, both of those.
Who's that coach? No, it's not. Okay, next question about your about you, man. Sorry. Before then, my last year at high school, I went to downtown and I was looking for your earrings.
Oh, my snake earrings?
Snake. I said, I need to find it. I absolutely need to find it. I was there for one day and I couldn't find it in the downtown. I was gonna write to you, but those time you made a rails with somebody wrote you to.
Yeah.
Can you give me a?
Yeah, and I was messing with them. Yeah. Yeah. No, the snake earrings. I don't wear them anymore. I'm gonna save them for special occasions. Like, for example, when I step back on the platform, I'm probably gonna wear them for that. But like, I kind of saw those as like a stage in my life when I was a bit younger, and like I used to like paint my nails black and shit like that. I used to do just crazy shit back in the day, just for like a little bit of shock factor, a little bit to like express myself and just the way I felt at the time. I never really put too much thought into stuff like that. I just kind of did what I wanted to do always with what I wear, how I present myself. But those snake earrings I just got online from a little like online store that was based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Oh.
And yeah, I never like told anyone that until now, but it was just like, they were just some sterling silver like snake earrings that I just got, and people like gained a liking to them over time. But yeah.
Okay. Next question. Also, this question is arguments in our community.
Okay.
One coach say if trust is necessary. One coach say if trust is unnecessary. What do you think about
trust between a coach and the athlete?
Coach say it's necessary, but another coach say it's unnecessary.
Like trust, as in like I have to trust my coach.
No, hip trust.
Oh, hip thrust.
Sorry, yeah, hip trust.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hip thrusts?
Yeah.
No, I don't think you need hip thrusts. No, I've never done a hip thrust in my entire life.
Oh.
Really?
No. Yeah. I've never done a hip thrust in my entire life.
Oh.
No.
I mean, I might do some other type of hip thrust, but I'm not doing hip thrust in the gym, you know?
Did you do?
I've done hip thrust before, but not programmed hip thrust. This was like when I was just going to the gym to work out. But I've done hip thrusts before. They're cool, but they're not necessary for powerlifting. Like, you don't need them. I wouldn't say that. Like, I'm of the belief if you want to get better at a lift, just do it more.
Yeah.
That's it. Like,
The best way to get better at squatting is squatting. The best way to get better at benching is
it's
benching.
just like 10,000 hours. The more you do something, the better you get at it. The more you learn, trial and error. Like, that's just life. Anything that is. Like, I feel like a lot of people try to overcomplicate everything. It's like, oh, if you do this, it'll. No, that's not how it works. You know, there's definitely like accessories that you can do that are going to contribute to your main lifts and make you stronger. But like, how are you going to be better at squat if you don't squat? You know, how are you going to be better at deadlift if you don't deadlift?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. So, yeah, if you want to get better at lift, you got to do it more.
Next question is, how do you manage your nutrition?
I just handle it myself. I just I know the macros I need to hit with carbs, proteins, fats. I know how many calories I need to maintain my weight, how much I need to lose weight, gain weight, and I just go about that. And the biggest thing with nutrition is just consistency. You have to be consistent with it, and as long as you're doing that, then you're setting yourself up for success inside the gym. The way I see performance in the gym or just making gains within powerlifting, it's like 3/3, so like a pie cut into thirds. It's what you're doing inside the gym, your nutrition, and then your recovery in terms of how much sleep you're getting. Are you setting yourself up to have good sessions? Is that third? All these things play into a part in terms of what you're going to be getting out, in terms of like what that number's going to be on the bar, you know, and maximizing your potential.
100%. I would say this, like, I was the same way for a long time. Like, I've always done my own nutrition since I started training. I recently started working with Fam. Most people are, if you know Fam, you know him as Famish on IG. But I started working with him more like towards meats, if I'm doing meats now. Because like Sean said, like I know the macros I need to get, I know how much water I need to get, I know how much sleep I need to be getting, I know how many steps I need to be getting. Like, I know these things, and like you said, like to me, that's the most important part is the sleep and the recovery. Like, yeah, the training is very important, right? But like, if your body's not primed to do it, it's not going to mean anything anyway. Like, we talk about it all the time. Like, if there's a week where we're not on, it shows up in our training heavily. Like, my body just feels like shit. I feel weak. Mentally, like I don't feel the greatest. Like the nutrition and the recovery, it's so important, man. Like it's so much more important than I think people give it credit for. Like the training is great. You have to be like take training seriously and attack it when you do, but like please take care of your recovery, take care of your nutrition. If you don't, you're not gonna be good at this. Like there's just no way. Your body can't go without the natural, like the actual fuel to keep it going. There's no way.
This question is about your lives. What's changed when you joined to GBT in your life?
My entire life changed.
Yeah.
Everything. Like
We follow from YouTube and we see your life's changed.
yeah,
You
like
moved on to Houston.
I moved to Houston. I'm not going to school anymore. I get to do what I want for a living. I get to build a company with people that I love and care about. I'm very, very blessed, very thankful for the position I'm in, and I just really try not to take it for granted because anything, it could be over tomorrow, everything, you know. But I'm just very thankful for the position I'm in, and that I'm able to do what I do or do what I want for a living, and it doesn't feel like work. I just feel like it's like a big project that I'm passionate about, you know. It's very interesting though, very interesting kind of how everything changed over the past year. And it never used to be like this, and like this is kind of always what I wanted to end up doing, and I always envisioned for myself. But just the fact that I'm here now, actually doing it, it hits different for sure.
So my life changed drastically. I'm not gonna get into too much detail because we'd be here forever. But let's just say, like, I was very living check to check before, like struggling. Working at Home Depot before. This one I lived in LA. Yeah, man, tough, very tough. And then I moved down here, and you know, I was just designing here and there, like for some people back in LA. And then Russ approached me and gave me an opportunity, and then everything's changed from there. Like, there's so many things that I've experienced since that I wouldn't have had before, and I know that. You know, so many places that I've been. So many people that I met, even like me being here talking to you, to me, like I'm grateful for that. You know, I wouldn't have had that if that didn't happen. So like, I'm very grateful for where I'm at and how much it changed my life. Like, just like Sean said, like life was very different before this, and I try my best to be here and in the moment and around everybody, because I know like everything is changing so rapidly and so fast. But I'll say this, like, life is a lot better, no pun intended, but life is a lot better now than it was, and I'm very grateful for it, and I don't take it for granted. Yeah, man, life changed tenfold for sure.
Russ make a good squad.
Yeah.
And last questions. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Damn. I have no idea. Definitely running a company or a few different companies, I would say.
400 deadlift?
Yeah. In my doubt, or in my mind, there's no doubt that I'm gonna hit all those numbers that I want to achieve one day. Like, I'm very, very certain one day I'm gonna squat above like 375, bench like 220, and like deadlift like 400 one day. Like those numbers, like it's kind of everything I want to do, or all of my goals that I've set out for myself. I kind of just speak into existence in the sense where like I put that out there and I know I want to do that, and I kind of make everything in my life revolve around working towards those goals that I constantly want to obtain. Like short-term goals, long-term goals. As long as I'm taking steps towards that, I don't have any regret with what I'm doing. So all those lifting goals that I have for myself, you know, I'm putting in the work each day to eventually get to that level. When it comes to other goals of like what I want to do down the line of my career, the type of lifestyle I want to live, I'm putting in the groundwork now, and I'm taking the steps now so that I can eventually do what I want to do, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Honestly, I don't think, it's probably more than I probably imagine. I would say that. I always say like, I think it's good to have plans, but I also believe plans are overrated because they never really go how you think they're gonna go. You know, like even when I left my hometown, like I never imagined to be here. Like I didn't plan to be here. I didn't plan for it. I just kind of walked life. I was talking to my grandmother about it. I was like, I've never really been scared to attempt anything. Like I've always felt like something was watching over me or taking care of me, whether I wanted to admit it or not. So like even in 10 years from now, man, like I couldn't tell you where I'm going to be. I just know it's going to be good. That's really all I know. And kind of like what Sean said, is like short-term and long-term goals. I really am a big believer in whatever you want to achieve, just start planting seeds. And like things take time. You know, like being patient, even powerlifting is a time thing, you know, for most people. Like be patient, give it time, and I'm a very big believer wherever you're supposed to be is where you will be. So we'll see.
Yeah. This is our last question. What's your advice for lifters who are following you, beginner, semi-pro?
Really, just trust and enjoy the process. You know, all good things worth working towards. You know, they never come easy, and I would say 90% of your life is what happens to you, and then the other 10% is just how you react to it. So, for all the lifters out there, your life and kind of what exactly is meant for you it's going to throw you into different positions, and it's really just how you react to those things and how you kind of navigate through the woods or navigate through the darkness of just different things that are going to come your way, which are going to lead to you becoming ultimately who you're meant to become. And that just goes within lifting, but that goes just in life in general, you know? So, like I said, just those goals that you want to work towards, trust the process and trust the fact that you're taking those steps towards achieving what you want to achieve, and enjoy it as well, you know? Try to live in the moment and not be too caught up in what the end goal is, but kind of each step that you're taking to get there, you know, because a lot of times you can find yourself lost in what you eventually ultimately want to achieve or become, or you might have your vision fixed on one thing when in the meantime or throughout that whole span of time in which it takes to get there, you're missing the beauty of all these things that you're kind of living through in the process, you know. That's what I would say.
100%. I 100% agree with that. What I would say is patience. Like, instill patience. Slow down. Stop rushing to get to this point that you think like this is it. You know, because like as humans, when we have goals, we're like, okay, we'll get here, and then like this is it. Okay, well, like what's after that? You know what I mean? And this is powerlifting in general. Like, we all want to get to that level if we think we can, you know what I mean? But it's like the journey to get to that point to me is always much more satisfying, you know what I mean? Like I even think about when I started and I wanted to be at this place and I wanted it then and there, I wasn't ready. I didn't know enough. Just be patient, man. Enjoy it. Learn. You know what I mean? Enjoy the people that you're around now because it changes, and just enjoy the process of working towards something that you really care about. The journey is always much more important than the end goal. The end goal is going to happen. If it's meant to happen, it's going to happen. The journey, you can't get that back. When it's done, it's done. You know what I'm saying? You can't get that back. So enjoy the process of getting stronger and learning, and the hard times too. Appreciate them. They make you who you are. Appreciate the hard times because they're going to make you who you are in the future. Like, appreciate everything, even when it doesn't make sense. It will, I promise you. Just be patient with yourself. If you have the goals in powerlifting to do certain things, do what you need to do to work towards those goals. You know what I'm saying? It's just like your daily habits, how you operate as a person, just everything. Just do what you need to do that's going to put you in the best position to get an opportunity to succeed. And like, yeah, man, I pursued powerlifting heavily, and it led to other ventures in my life, kind of what he was talking about. And like, I'm aware of that. And I still love powerlifting to a degree, and I still have goals in it, and I'm gonna do what I have to do to meet those goals, right? But I understand they take time. So it's like, be patient. Even like young kids who are like beginning and they want to be like their favorite lifters, just realize that your favorite lifters have been lifting for like 5+, 6+, 7, 8, 9+ years, whether you know it or not. So just like, be patient. Social media is a big problem because we compare too much. Everybody compares themselves to this. It's just like, give it time. Just give yourself time. So just be patient, enjoy the process, and give yourself time, man. Give yourself time to grow. That would be my advice. Like, don't be in such a rush. What are you rushing for? Don't be in such a rush. Just like, take your time, learn, and become better and better and better. And that's all you can do, just every day.
Guys, so thanks for you gave me this chance for record the interview with two of you.
I appreciate you asking.
No, I appreciate it. It was a
Thanks.
good interview. I like it.
Yeah, you had some really good questions. That was good.
Yeah.
No, thanks. I hope we can have a good workout with you.
Yeah,
Thank you, man.
of course, 100%.
Thanks.
Yeah, 100%.
For sure, bro. Pleasure meeting you, man.
Yeah,
Pleasure.
me too. Okay. Goodbye.
That was good. I like that.
Yeah, that was a good interview, man.
I was actually, I enjoyed it.
You had good questions.
Thank you. Can we have a picture for videos?